Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Woodstock, Georgia, it's time for Cherokee Business Radio. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to Cherokee Business Radio. Stone Payton here with you this morning, and today's episode is brought to you in part by Alma Coffee, sustainably grown, veteran-owned, and direct trade, which means, of course, from seed to cup, there are no middlemen. Please go check them out at myalmacoffee.com and go visit their Roastery Cafe at 3448 Holly Springs Parkway in Canton. Ask for Harry or the brains of the outfit, Leticia, and tell them that Stone sent you. You guys are in for such a real treat this morning. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast. First up on today's edition of Cherokee Business Radio, with Genesis Center for Optimal Living, Dr. Tom Graham. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How's it going?
It is going well. We've been looking forward to this for some weeks now. I've really have kind of envisioned us having this conversation for a few reasons that may come to light as our discussion unfolds. But you and I think we initially connected at maybe Woodstock Business Club or YPOW, one of these local business organizations that we're so fortunate to have here in this community. Am I remembering that right?
Yep. I believe I originally met you the YPOW and then later on at Woodstock Business Club. So incidentally,
YPOW, the Y in YPOW stands for young. Why they let me participate in that group, I don't know, but I am so fortunate.
It's your heart.
That's I am young at heart. All right, Dr. Tom, tell us a little bit about mission, purpose, with your work, with your practice. What are you really out there trying to do for folks?
Well, I'll start with just my purpose statement. I feel that gives a lot of clarity to what we kind of do in this crazy rock we call Earth. So my purpose is to elevate humanity's consciousness through personal growth and development, utilizing inspiration, education, and opportunity.
I feel like you've answered that question before.
Maybe once or twice.
That was very articulate, very, very eloquent. All right, so say more.
So ultimately, my place on this earth is to try to get people thinking clear, trying to elevate their choices, and then also creating education, hopefully inspire people with things like this radio show, and then, of course, create opportunity where someone could go better their mind, better their life, their health. What's the next step for you in your evolution, ultimately?
So let's do that. Let's talk about optimal health, because I'm operating under the impression you probably have a very distinct frame of reference definition for that, and maybe in the course of that same discussion, maybe a little bit about what is disease in your mind.
Well, it all starts in the root of the word dis-ease. So disease is literally the lack of ease in a body. So chiropractic on a I'll say historic level has looked at health a lot different than, let's say, many Western medicines. And they look at disease as essentially things that you come across in your surroundings, your environment, things like that, that ultimately your brain can't fully process. And with time, that starts to create resistance or the lack of ease in a system or the lack of flow in an energetic system. So that at the end of it all, like disease is essentially these things you can't process, finding resistance in your body, and with time, that usually ends up creating dysfunction, dis-ease. Yeah.
All right, and so optimal health is, in your mind, the other end of that continuum, or
Yep.
the
Exactly. So health is very much a spectrum. On one side of health, you have optimal health. Means that, all the cells in your body are doing their appropriate function. Your organs are giving back. All the cells in the body have right communication flow. And essentially, that would be things are regenerating with you at your prime. There's guys even today that 100 years old are running marathons, and what's possible for one is possible for all. It's a matter of the steps you take to actually achieve that, and how you can essentially create more ease throughout the system.
So in our admittedly pretty cursory conversations, you have mentioned on more than one occasion brain and nervous system, and this is a very important aspect of your practice. Can you speak more to that?
Absolutely. So the brain and nervous system is really what I focus on at Genesis. As chiropractors, ultimately, like I said, the body is all energetic flow, and the brain and nervous system is the key system. It's also the master control center, kind of like the computer of the whole body. So if the computer can't connect to the part, right, the part is going to start malfunctioning.
I love these stone level descriptions. I know it's helpful for me, and I think it's probably helpful for the listeners. Thank you. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So if you can't get full communication to all the cells in the body, essentially that's what starts the process of disease or dysfunction. So the brain and nervous system, right, all runs through the spinal cord. So those that have seen chiropractors of any sort, generally they're working with your spine somehow. That's because 90% of all your nervous system essentially is between your head and your tailbone. It happens all through that core layer. And when that starts to dysfunction, twist, the spine and the body start to twist, distort, things like that, the level of communication that goes to those cells, goes to your different organs and tissues, starts to minimize. And now the cells don't know how to react to the rest of the body. They're not getting all the right information, right? So if you've been on a phone call with someone, you can only hear 50% of the conversation. You try to get to Woodstock, they end up in Alabama, right? Right.
So I think most of us lay people already understand there's probably a little bit of a departure from the art and science of chiropractic versus traditional Western medicine. But I get the sense that there's a little bit of a departure in your path, your approach to chiropractic than maybe what we might describe as traditional chiropractic. Is that accurate?
I will actually correct you slightly.
Okay. It happens to me all the time. My wife Holly does that a lot.
I am actually what you would consider a traditional chiropractor.
Okay.
Because this is the philosophy that the profession was truly founded on.
Okay.
Right? It uses principles. We even have something in the chiropractic profession called the 33 principles. Some of them are talking about universal principles. Some of them talk about biologic principles. But when you add all those together, essentially you come up with a very clean framework about how someone can go about their life, starting to make better decisions and starting to up the game, right? Mm-hmm. So universal principle number one, there's an intelligence that exists through all of matter. Universally. So whether it's in the table, the chair, our bodies, in this microphone, the computer, there's some sort of intelligence that holds atoms together, some sort of intelligence that allows stuff to stay operating. Mm-hmm. I'm not that smart to know what that intelligence is, but I can observe it every day, all the time, right?
Oh, yeah.
So another one would be time. Principle number 6 is all processes require time, right? You can see it, easily observable principle that you could basically demonstrate over and over and over and over again, right? So when you take that approach, using principles as far as how you start facilitating someone's health journey, at the end of the day, as long as those principles are true, then absolutely you're going to end up at much higher gains in your life and function. So the traditional chiropractic takes that approach. Western medicine has started to integrate with a lot of chiropractic, and
much more so than in a decade back, right? It was not so much back then, yeah.
I would say it really started in the late 70s and 80s is when insurance got involved more with the profession. Diagnosis, things like that. So a lot of the profession took on more of a Western medical allopathic treatment protocol versus principles of living. that make sense?
Yeah. Well, so far, I got lots of other questions. There's just so much I don't know about so much, but particularly this domain. I'm not going to run out of questions. We'll just have to have you guys back. All right, we're going to dive more into that because I really do. It fascinates me, and I'm on my own personal health journey right now. That it's my show, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit too in a little while. But you brought somebody with you. Tell us about who you brought with you, man. Let's team up.
He's like my brother from another mother. We met later on in chiropractic school. We basically look like twins.
Yes, you do. You should start your own cult or something. I don't know.
It's a endeared friend of mine, fellow fraternity brother in the chiropractic professional fraternity, and doctor, or soon-to-be Dr. Zach Connor. He'll be graduating and starting practice in Michigan in December is when his departure from Georgia happens. But
all right, well, welcome to the show, Zach.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so you can see it now. The light at the end of the tunnel. You're gonna get your credentials, and then you're making a bold move right out of the box. You're leaving sunny Georgia and going to Michigan.
Yeah. My better, more beautiful half and her family are up there, and it's going to be exciting. North of Detroit, Macomb County, somewhere in that area.
So when and how did you make the decision to pursue this path? Because, you're a good-looking, strapping, young, healthy guy. You could have been a lot of things, right? You could have been an Army man, bus driver. I'll explain that to our audience here in a little bit.
It's almost as if you've known me for a long time.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I was in the Navy for a while, and I was going to get out of the Navy because they treated me nice and it went well. But as far as people telling me what to do every day, I was kind of getting sick of that. And I threw this Hail Mary, which is basically I'll re-enlist if I get this job. And it's not like I had pull. I didn't have leverage like that. I just got lucky and I got it. And they call it cake duty. And it's just an intentionally easy job that somebody has to do. And I happened to be that guy. So I had too much free time, basically. And just spent my time out in San Diego researching and exploring. Really fell in love with philosophy and ancient Egyptian philosophy and anything that had to do with base principles and stacking of awarenesses and understandings. And then I got out of the Navy and just played for probably way too long and worked in the service industry, got into bartending and met, cool, interesting people like Dr. Tom here and just kept talking philosophy. And one day my neck was messed up from a fall. And I was like, I can crack my own neck. And I was actually at work bartending, and I went to crack my own neck and made it way worse. Ended up going to a local chiropractor, Dr. Bobby Braille. He's still in Marietta practicing. And he spit the philosophy at me, and it hit me like deeply because I'm like, wow, this is an application of these fundamental truths that I've been studying for all these years. Because I wasn't specifically studying the body, but the fundamental truths are represented in the body. And so it was just this beautiful union. And ever since then, it's been nothing but a reaffirmation. It's very affirmed. This is where I'm supposed to be.
So both of you, and I'd like for both of you to speak to this. So you've got your credential. You're out doing your thing. Dr. Tom, Zach, you got your whole life ahead of you with this. And you both also now you're business people. So that's a whole nother domain of expertise and angst and I don't know what, but I'll start with you, Dr. Tom. Tell us a little bit about that, like becoming a business person, things you found exciting, things that didn't maybe go so well, challenges, rewards. What was that like?
Well, I'm still learning every day. And I definitely didn't go to business school for 15 years.
Yeah,
that was a rude awakening. But ultimately, it's that stepping stone for helping other people. So even through the stuff, I don't absolutely fall in love with doing. At the end of the day, it's become worth it because you get to help more people, make good connections, everything like that. But yeah, the business side of the business side of things has definitely been a learning curve just because there's a lot of aspects to it. You're wearing all the hats, right?
Right.
Right out the bat as well, of course, starting on a student budget, I'll say, don't have the finances to hire people and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been definitely a learning curve, but enjoyable.
So far, how does the whole sales and marketing thing work for a guy like you, a practice like you? Are you out there shaking the bushes? Are you creating really important relationships with other people in the health ecosystem? How are you getting the new business?
So most recently, it's been a lot of business-to-business connections, honestly, doing networking, stuff like that. Besides that, though, but I'll say before, I did a whole rebranding process for about a year out of my office and everything like that, and was basically just word of mouth. So luckily, when you're good at what you do, people do sing your praises, which I'm grateful for. So yeah, in that process, it's just been keeping me floating and going forward, I'll say. And then now that I've actually got rebranded completely and everything, doing a lot more actual personal outreach, doing health talks, education's definitely one of the pillars as far as making a sustainable practice, especially a model like this, because you're not looking for the one-time neck pain pop or whatever. Really, it's showing people that health is a journey and showing them that chiropractic can be part of their brain and neurology piece of that, just like nutrition is, a piece of that as well. Exercise is a piece of that big journey.
So are you finding that you're educating different groups of people, like lay people like me who may need and want to be clients of yours, but other practitioners in other domains? Like, are you educating doctors or people who are nutritionists? Are you educating them as well so that you can, Yeah. So I'm always an advocate for reaching out to other businesses in the health realm, because my office, brain, nervous system, that's it, right? I can make recommendations of supplements and stuff like that, but really that's not my forte. That's not what I do in office. So I want people, if you want to lose some weight, I have a couple people I can call up. Oh, I got the person for you. Or if you want to go get in better shape, yep, I got the person for you. You need a massage? Yep, I got a person for you. So having that trusted network of people is absolutely part of my business model. Maybe eventually down the road, I'll get to a place where I can have it all under one roof. But now, that could be cool.
But right now, I love the thought of just taking care of people's brain, nervous system, and loving. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Zach, you got to get out there and run a business here before too long. Are there some things you're doing now to prep for that? Because you don't want to just land in Michigan and go, oh gosh, I got to do something, right? So you're doing some stuff now?
Yeah. So right now I'm collecting resources essentially, and I've been mentor shopping the whole time I've been in school, and so I've been finding more and more successful people that are willing to help out. And luckily, I've got my my more beautiful half, Fiona Gallagher. Her father, Terrence Gallagher, is a successful businessman who's opened many chiropractic offices in Michigan, and he's willing to help us out on the coaching of the business end of things.
Nice.
And so, from what I've heard, that whether it's an organization that's you pay a certain amount of money a month or you do a full-on franchise, having some type of coaching and mentoring is really where it's at. And so, and I'm going to be pulling from as many resources as I can. So that's a long way to answer. I've got a lot to do, and I've done a lot of step one and stepping into step two shortly. So, making preparations. Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit. I'm going to ask you first, Zach, but could you speak to some of the misconceptions that a layperson like myself might have about this whole field of chiropractic, or about wellness in general? Are there some patterns that you see over and over? Like if you get in a conversation with a layperson, you almost can be assured this topic is going to come up, and you're going to do your best to kind of nudge them in a direction.
Yeah. So bartending gives me an opportunity to practice communicating chiropractic to the lay person. And I've actually found, and I don't think lay is derogatory, right? Just the chiropractic person. I found that it's easier to communicate chiropractic to people who have no exposure to chiropractic or minimal exposure to chiropractic than it is to people who feel like they've had a lot of exposure to it. And then maybe didn't have a good experience, chiropractic works. It's just that, some chiropractic works better. And so maybe they were at an office that worked, but maybe, didn't work enough, or they just, the communication maybe wasn't there. 'Cause sometimes when the healing process kicks in, areas of the body that have dimmed down a little bit to prevent further injury, part of that would be maybe even the pain signals have turned down. And so as we go through this healing journey, one of the things that might happen is the pain might actually increase or start in a new area that it wasn't. But as long as we see that it's changing, that's how we know the body's adapting. And so the difference there in the communication is the process of healing shows adaptation, and the process of dis-ease and sickness shows a pattern. And so even though we may have something new arise in the initial stages of the healing process, that's still gauged, and we can tell that you're on a healing journey. So communication like that, and I know a real common one that comes up when I'm talking to people about it is, imagine a guitar. But imagine that the guitar is a self-tuning guitar with artificial intelligence. And now imagine it gets kind of stuck. And then it just needs a little nudge so it can continue its process of auto-tuning. And so we are like a third-party perspective, and we can see areas the bodies have just gotten stuck, and they just need a little nudge. Humans weren't made dependent on chiropractors, but we have had a interesting, 150 or 200. I mean, we've had an interesting time with the Industrial Revolution going into the early 1900s. We're sitting all the time. We're stressed out. We got blue lights. We're on unnaturally flat surfaces. And so the body gets overwhelmed, and chiropractors are there to assist the body in doing what it's already doing. So those are a few of the things that kind of come up in the just regular person conversation.
Yeah. So same question for you, Dr. Tom. Are there different, what's the right word, techniques, approaches to this business of chiropractic? And if so, can you kind of lay them out for us a little bit?
Yeah. So absolutely. There's over 350 techniques
of
chiropractic, believe it or not.
Holy moly.
But different techniques use different approaches. End of the day, all chiropractors, whether you're traditional or more modernized and everything like that, generally are looking for some sort of increase in neurology and brain function. So you could be taking x-rays. So they have just, let's say, specifically x-ray based approaches where they're trying to get your curves in your spine back to normal, because there's a ton of science showing that when people's curves in their spine are normal, they have less pain, symptoms, and disease, right? So some versions of chiropractic will just focus on that. Other versions of chiropractic use lots of, let's say, muscle testing, things like that, to try to analyze where weaknesses are. Other versions of chiropractic are just strictly energy, which is just essentially even being able to visualize someone. You can feel heat readings off of them when there's dysfunction. There's also lots of different tools sometimes people use to try to measure the function of the nervous system, like thermographies, even muscle testings, like they have electronic muscle testings where people can figure out what's going on. So yeah, many different approaches to ultimately the same goal: get the person's brain nervous system firing better, wiring together. And when that happens, health increases, right?
Yeah, and then initially, do you run into some of these same kind of misconceptions Zach was describing, and or some others?
Absolutely. And as he said, it's actually easier to communicate with someone that doesn't have previous notions about what chiropractic is. Right. Just because, again, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but a lot of people are just associate chiropractic, headache, back pain, neck pain. So when you have some sort of musculoskeletal issue, this is the pain doc. So trying to deprogram and or reprogram someone to be like, okay, what are you doing when the pain goes away? Because pain's 5% of your whole neurology. So you're just focusing on 5%, or do you want the other 95%? Because function is really where it's at. It's not about the pain. It's what the pain is keeping you from doing. You want to go play with your grandkids again, or you want to go out and play softball, right? So trying to alter someone's perception so that they can see a bigger picture when you're dealing with someone that does have preconceived notions of it. That's the challenge. Someone that's brand new to it, you can basically say, hey, this thing, the brain controls the whole body, right? So if we help the brain function better, your whole health is going to be better, right? It's a little bit more of an organic, easier conversation than someone that's stuck in, oh, you treat my back pain and headaches. Right.
Right. Okay, let's talk about me for a minute. It's my favorite topic. So I really am kind of on a health journey for, I'd say, about 5 weeks in now. The result has been 12 plus pounds lost, clothes fitting a lot better.
Way to go.
I still have that little paunch, but nothing like I did. And I didn't really go, in my mind, radical. I still enjoy, a bourbon or a scotch, a couple evenings a week, not as much. I backed off the beer a lot because it seemed to have a real impact on my gut. I walk a ton, and of course I have walked quite a bit since I moved here, but I don't stop at every beer market, every walk now for that bit of refreshment. But I think one of the biggest moves that I've made, I was having a conversation. She wasn't on the show. We were just talking, but she came to the studio with Stacy Roby, who's in the Woodstock Business Club, and she has some real knowledge and personal experience around this whole idea of functional medicine and food as medicine, I guess I would almost say. And so we got to talking. She was so helpful because she put it at stone level for me, and she said, you might want to look at not so much processed, not so much sugar, and maybe more whole foods. And I said, well, help me with that, whole foods. And she said, if it has a mother or comes out of the ground. So that's been like my guideline, right? And I've been eating a little bit less meat. So anyway, I've had some success, and now I'm feeling momentum, so I'm encouraged. Like you get a little bit of momentum. So I'm thrilled. I feel better. I don't know if I look any better, but my clothes fit better, and I feel better about myself. I feel like I have more energy. My question, so I intend to continue on that path and try to learn more, and I'm reading books like on longevity, like the Blue Zone and all this stuff. What, if any, attention should I put toward this domain? Like, I'm not in any pain, but is there potentially some value, perhaps, in visiting with someone in your line of work? I don't know, just to kind of do like a baseline assessment, or to tune some things up, and anything either of you have to offer in that regard.
Do you feel as healthy as you could be?
No. I absolutely not. I feel like I've made tremendous progress in 5 weeks' time, but I feel like I can do 10 push-ups. And I could do 5 when I started. So, but no, the short answer to your question is no.
So if you're not feeling like you're as healthy as you can be, that's the brain. It's the neurology.
Okay.
There's in every single piece. So it doesn't matter whether I use 5 pillars of health in my office. Mm-hmm. Nervous system, brain is pillar number 1.
Okay.
Mindset, pillar number 2. Nutrition, pillar number 3. Exercise is pillar number 4, and then detox and de-stress is pillar number 5, right? But the reason brain and neurology becomes number 1 is because if let's say your brain isn't connected to your digestive system, mm-hmm. to your intestines and stomach, right? Is your intestines and stomach going to be taking in all the nutrition it could be? Does it know what nutrition it needs? Mm. Or is there some level of miscommunication, right? Your muscles, doing 5 push-ups to 10 push-ups, right? Most of that, believe it or not, was probably neurology training in the beginning. Huh. Because your neurology sets all aspects of your life.
And day one, it was like, what are you doing? Right? So this is not us, don't.
To the point, they even have studies, again, where after an adjustment, athletes will get a 10 or 15% increase in their max weight.
Huh.
Right after an adjustment.
Wow.
Because the brain is, when you can't lift the weight, That's because your brain is telling you that you can't lift it. So if you clear the communication between the muscle and the brain, now we got rid of some of that dis-ease, some of that stress in that muscle, and now we got another 10 or 15% more.
Okay, so your answer is an enthusiastic yes. If I'm serious about this.
Every part of your body, it starts at the brain and neurology.
Okay, all right. Zach, anything to add to that, or any personal experience where you've kind of seen what he's describing come to life?
Yeah, there's no ceiling to optimization. So you can always further optimize. So it's a never-ending journey. You know, it becomes this lifelong endeavor to continuously optimize the nervous system. And, you know, that's why I plan on doing, monthly. I just want to charge people monthly because I want them to be able to come in as often as they can. And I want to charge a very fair amount. Right. You know, because having a third-party perspective, look to see if there's interference in the nervous system, and then initiate a process of self-correction is something I think everybody would benefit from 2 times a week for the rest of their life. And if they've got something dynamic going on, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. But especially with the low-force technique that both Dr. Tom and myself do, this concept of being over-adjusted or causing harm with adjustments, it's absolutely not possible with the technique that we use. So, I think that on your healing journey, Stone, I think you would greatly benefit from regular chiropractic care. And I think Tom being in the region is a great chiropractor.
All right.
Good option for you.
Fantastic. One more question. I'm not going to go too far down this road on air. I may off air, but I got to believe this, the work I'm already doing and complemented with brain and nervous work and the detox stuff that you talked about on the other end as I envision it, would certainly have potentially some real positive impact on libido, love life, that area of your life. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. So I kind of put people in different levels depending on where they're at. I'll say energetically, functionally. When your body is in a state of dis-ease, right, and it gets really bad, you don't have the energy to get out of bed, right? You're so energetically locked that even getting out of bed seems like a task, right? Because most of your energy at that point is actually going into defending your body and trying its best to heal, but ultimately things are locked, things aren't flowing. So when you actually start to get rid of some of these inefficient programs that this brain neurology is, we call them patterns in chiropractic, when you start to break some of these inefficient patterns, that frees up energy. Just like if you have 50 programs running on your computer and you take away 10 of them, your computer has more energy now. And what you do with that energy is your life. That's your quality of life. So now you can go out and walk or eventually run or eventually get to 100 push-ups. Who knows? So it's an evolution ultimately. And yes, the energetic body is really what dictates. Are you in a form of defense, what I call discover, like discovering your body and stuff like that? Or are you a little bit more energetically efficient where you have where we would be more in transform care is what we call it. So am I defended right now, or do I have energy to play with and start creating my life? Does that make sense? So
it does make sense, and our next visit is going to be in your studio.
Perfect.
and we don't have to record it, but I'm looking forward to that. You've absolutely sold me. You got Zach Connor's endorsement. I don't know what else it would take to get someone to do something. And if Zach says to do it, Zach, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to explain to our listeners why it's okay to say this. I am so excited for you, and I am so proud of you. Zach Connor is my nephew. His father's name is Rock, by the way. Mine is Stone. His father and I have actually worked together in the same company, and it did create some interesting conversations when people would call that company and ask for Rock. Well, Rock's out to lunch, but Stone here. What can I do to help you? A very dear family member. I have watched Zach grow up, and he really did at one time in a school play that Holly and I attended, suggested he wanted to be an Army man bus driver. He's since pivoted and is clearly now going to go into this practice. I'm excited for you. I am really proud of you, and I am so looking forward to watching your life and your career and your family unfold. I don't know what might be appropriate at this juncture, but I would love for people to be able to connect with you who might want to. And so I don't know if it's a LinkedIn, an email, whatever. But before we wrap, let's leave them with some point of contact for you, please.
Yeah, and I'm still building, what's going to end up being my brand. And wow, it's coming quick, December. Right now, the only, I think the best point to would be Dr. Zach Connor on Instagram. So it's at DRZACHCONNER. And once I finally get a website up and LinkedIn and all that going professionally in the next few months, it'll all be hosted on there. So.
And when you do that, if you come to town and you're seeing Rock and Lori or whatever, we can come back in the studio. But if not, we'll set up like a virtual interview and kind of do an update. I think that could be, we could have like a whole series, Follow Zach.
That'd be great.
Well, it's been a delight having you in the studio, man. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too, Tom. It's done.
All right, Dr. Tom, let's make sure that it's easy for folks to come see you, or maybe at this point they just would like to have a brief conversation with you and explore some ideas. Let's leave them with a nice, easy way to connect with you, man.
Yeah, so practice name is Genesis Center for Optimal Living. It's genesisoptimalliving.com. Has my phone number, also email, if that works for you, is best ways to get out. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming. Thanks for bringing Zach.
My pleasure.
I really look forward to seeing your practice flourish, and I'm quite sincere on both counts. One, having you back on the show sometime, I think that would be really interesting. It might even be fun, perhaps, to have a delighted client join you. And or market partner, or, it strikes me that some of your market partners might be clients too, but it might be fun to kind of explore how you guys work together to mutually serve a client. So let's keep that channel open. And I'm equally sincere. I'm going to come see you because I'm quite serious about this journey, and I've experienced enough early success that I don't want to lose the momentum, man.
Heck yeah.
All right. Hey, guys, can you hang out with us while we visit with our next guest?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, y'all ready for the headliner out there? Please join me in welcoming to the show with Guda Residential Services, Miss Susan Guda. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks, Stone, for having me out.
Yeah. So what'd you learn in that last segment?
Oh, my goodness. There were so many. I believe very strongly in chiropractic, first of all. So it's fantastic. But there's so many analogies to living just in looking at that highway, that spinal cord highway to communication and segueing into some of the things that are important to me in real estate, believe it or not. I spent 28 years in education, actually, and people say, wow, education, real estate, really? oh my goodness, there's so many connections to it. And the same thing, when you're talking about body, then you talk about community, and why do we do what we do, and what's the value? And optimal living, that involves the community as well. So going outside the body is super important. So I love the practice of chiropractic and what it does for body and mind. And then I've been a performance athlete as well. So using that to keep me going, keep my body from breaking on the road has been very beneficial. So thank you for what you do and what you bring to the table.
You're both welcome, guys. And we don't charge people to come on the show, but I think I may have to invoice you for that little clip. I think that could be strong. Nice work, Susan. All right. So residential services, what are the services and who are you serving?
Wow. All of Metro Atlanta. I've lived in this area for 33 years now. It's hard to believe because I grew up moving every 2 years. So that also impacts what I do now. But in residential services, I do full residential real estate. And in listing, I do all of the photography, videography, 3D video, And even in this market where, you could basically just set a house for sale sign out and sell your house to optimize the selling of that house, I do everything I would have done in a buyer's market for that home and to market it, because you want to get the best that you can for your clients. So I think that it's vitally important to do the same thing, knowing how well that goes and get as many eyes on those properties as possible. So, and then once, I used to just do the videography for my own listings, but once COVID hit, and the fear of actually being able to show properties and getting into people's homes, it became very apparent that we needed that in the residential community or the real estate community overall. And so I opened it up in Atlanta Real Estate Video Services, became a side of what I do and for other realtors, because I know what I want when I market my property. Yeah. So then I was able to open that up, which also gets my eyes out there on what the market is containing as well. So that's been helpful on both sides.
I'll bet. So outside looking in, your world just looks cray-cray to me right now.
and vice versa. Inside looking out, it looks a little crazy too. Yes.
So both of my daughters, Zach's cousins, have recently been engaged. They got engaged over the holiday, and they each now have a home under contract.
Good.
My youngest in Chattanooga's got one that's a little bit more of a fixer-upper kind of thing, and they're all geared for doing that. And then my oldest up in Washington, D.C. has got one, and it's under contract. But the oldest one in D.C., Katie, they must have gone after a dozen homes and I mean, they were bidding what to me sounds like a ridiculous amount of money. And they were bidding like more than the asking price. Yeah, the list price.
Right. Yeah. And that's very common. And so now it's been a real transition in these last couple of years. And we thought last year was crazy. This year is even more, cray. Yeah, for sure. And what I tell my buyers is, look, let's not look at the list price as the value of the home. Let's look at that as the marketing price, because the way that you're listing homes is so totally different than what it used to be as well. But the thing is, when you're looking at buying a home, it's always about what your goals are. So if your goals are to go in there and flip a home and get a quick profit, you may really want to be careful in the market that we're in right now. But if your goals are to go in there and hold property, I'd say 5-7 years, you're still in a good place. It's, this all it comes out in the wash, because like we bought a home, last March, and it's already up over 20% in value. And so now that's not going to necessarily happen year over year. We don't have a crystal ball to know exactly what.
Can you help me pick stocks too? I mean, it sounds like the magic touch.
Well, and that's what a lot of the country has done. I mean, 21% gains over the year have been pretty almost standard in many of the larger markets. And Metro Atlanta is one of those markets that, of course, we have Hartsfield International Airport. So we've got so many of the global operations of mega companies in Atlanta. And then, of course, we've turned into this entertainment capital as well. Yeah. And that's been a huge thing. And so people are coming from all other areas of the country. And there's a lot of other factors as well. But people coming in from all other areas of the country, California. And when you're having to say, look, this $400,000 home that you're looking at here is totally different than the $400,000 home you were looking at in California. You do not have to put up with those things here. You can get more for your money still here. But it's an equalizing. It's becoming equalized more so. And so I don't see a big drift in prices going downward, but I do see a steadying coming because we've got interest rates that are changing, all of those things. So, I mean, it's not, I don't see it as a tremendously volatile market. Like I don't see it as a bubble, and that's a pretty broad, that's a popular understanding,
sure.
And by economists and others in the industry. And, but it is an interesting market. I tell you, I feel like I should wear a cape when we get to the offer table, when we get the closing table, not the offer table, goodness. When we get to the closing table with a buyer, I feel like, oh, we won the deal. And recently I actually had somebody close on a property under list price with closing costs included.
Wow, you do wear a cape.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Hey, but let's get kind of tactical here for a minute. Let's share some pro tips if we could to help a buyer compete in this market.
Yeah. And it really depends. I mean, it's important to have a realtor who really has a good network of other realtors to get along with. You see it as a competition, but it really isn't so. It's really a matter of creating win-win for our clients. We are all looking out for our clients. And so it's very important that we have good communication with other realtors. So for my buyer, when I'm with a buyer, I will go to the realtor. The first thing I do, what is important to your client? So we can strategize, because it's not necessarily we need to close in 8 days and we need to, have no contingencies. Offers, for my listings, I put them on a spreadsheet. So I know it's nice to work both sides of it because I know what we're looking for. And you want somebody who's motivated. So you want to show that motivation. Now, I don't get too much into the letters and those sorts of things because fair housing is a big deal and you want to make sure that everything is on the up and up. And but it is important to show that the client is very motivated personally to own that home. Because you might get an offer, this outrageous offer, maybe, non-committed sort of investor type offer, which some investor offers are great, and some investor offers, they're just throwing a lot of them out there. You get a lot of them right away. And maybe they're lowball or maybe they're just really ridiculously high, but they're not going to stick. So, it's helping my client to get to the top of the offer pile. It's a combination of, finding out what's important, asking the questions to both my client and the seller of the property, and then strategizing with my lender or the lender that they have chosen to use, outside of that, if they have their own already, to be able to get, appraisals done quickly, to get to close quickly if that's the necessity, and to be able to use a variety of different lending tactics. So things like ribbon are out there, and that is something where they can come in with a full cash deal and make it look like a full cash deal instead. And so it's a throughway for people to get their lending, and ribbon is the one that stands up for that and gives the cash for that. There are other avenues where you take somebody who may have a 20% down. They've got the cash to put 20% down, fabulous. Well, if they're going to have an appraisal gap, and that's in this market, that's an important thing to have in an offer, then you can write that appraisal gap in comfortably by eating into a little bit of that down payment, but then they can upfront pay their PMI, which is the first, when you're below 20%, that insurance that you have to have that, kind of ups the monthly payment for a while there. But you can upfront pay that. If you've got that, then it's just one price, and then you can go in and say, well, I've still got that same monthly mortgage. And people, think, oh, well, this $10,000 is going to cost me so much. But the $10,000 per month over the course of a 30-year mortgage is not much at all. Of course, it depends on the interest rates and all of that. And what I say to people all the time is, look, it's not just the bottom line house price. It's the bottom line plus interest. And, of course, that's playing a part in people's ability to buy right now as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned how important other realtors are.
Yeah.
What about lenders? I guess you have marvelous relationships. Those are critical, right?
Absolutely. And really in any area of the market that touches home ownership. So my vendor relationships are very important. Having people that I can, people come to me all the time asking me, do you know somebody who does windows or does siding or painting, and I want to be able to give them a good, solid resource. So I don't just throw those names out there. Those are relationships that are, I need proof in the pudding before I'll give a name out. And so the lenders I work with and the closing attorneys I work with, all of those are people that I have worked with and trust to do the best by my client, to handle and to communicate well with them, and to get them to the closing table without as little stress as possible in the home buying process. Can't say without stress at all, but buffer it.
So you mentioned like letters or that kind of thing. So whether it's through a letter or just through conversation that you equip your realtor to have with the other realtor, do things like, hey, we're a young family, and like, does that help at all?
You know, the thing about that is you got to be very careful. I am very careful. Different realtors do it different ways,
right.
But integrity is everything.
Right.
And I don't want anybody to ever question why we chose one offer over another based on anything to do with family structure or, fair housing practices. That's never the case.
Right.
And I don't want there to be any question. So generally speaking, when somebody says, hey, I've got this letter from my client, I will not pass it along until after an offer is accepted.
Okay.
I just don't want the questions about
that. Yeah.
And like I said, integrity is extremely important.
But being very clear about what the client needs and wants, you got to do that before you can do your job properly.
Right. And when I send in a listing, or set up a listing in the MLS, I put everything in there. So I'll put in there all the upgrades that have been done to the property. I'll put in every detail of everything to make the offer as easy as possible. But I also put in the priority list of the seller. And then once the bids have come in, I've learned that it's really important also to communicate back with the realtor to let their buyer know kind of where they fell, not directly like this is the number and that is the number. It is, these are the numbers of offers that came in at this point over asking. These are the numbers of offers that came in, at different areas, and with contingency, without contingency, with appraisal gap, without, so that they learn to write a better offer. And so that, because, it's, in this market, we do have, as realtors, we have to combat the thinking that we're trying to get more out of the commission. And I would rather take a person, to me, it's not transactional, it's very much relational. And, with all of my clients, that relationship.
That's what I think I'm learning in this conversation. This world is far more relationship oriented, relationship dependent. I guess I had it in much more of a transactional frame, but I can see where you're going to be working with that realtor again. So you're equipping her to help her client, and that even if you don't end up in that particular deal, there's 3 more coming down the pike this year, right? And you need to have that good relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with the realtor and with my clients, I mean, I'm building a referral-based business. Right. So that's imperative. I have tried other means of creating lead generation, but the one that speaks mostly to me are the people who I really, that of course know and trust me. Sure. And that can really help to not just go from A to B, but to do all of the twists and turns in the process, getting from A to B.
So referrals, some would come from people who are buying and selling houses. I'm sure had a great experience. Yeah. More, I would think, maybe from other realtors or lenders, or
it's sometimes in realtors out of the area, of course.
Okay.
Or if they don't do business on the northwest side of Atlanta, they might talk to Susan. That's and I've even had realtors go in with their client on the buy side into one of my listings and say, "Oh man, this is going to be fantastic. Susan Guda's doing this." And this is going to be a great property to look at.
Nice.
So that's what you want. That's the sort of reputation you want to have out there.
And then, like lenders,
lenders can as well. Folks? It's not why I choose lenders, but it is. You develop that relationship. You send people their way. I do preferred lenders a lot of times with my listings because I know that they are good, solid lenders, and the people they're approving are not just. They're pre-approved, not just pre-qualified.
Right.
So,
I want to jump to something else in just a moment, but since you brought it up, let's make that distinction.
Okay. Pre-approved, they've gone through several of the paperwork, the proof of their income, and
it's not like they're a radio host. They probably have like real jobs, with documentable income, right? Okay, got it.
Yes, but a pre-qual is, hey, this is what I make. And they just kind of type it in. They're not doing a lot of actual having to prove their income or, and so you might go out to, some online company and just type in a number and you get
an automatic response. Yeah, you're pre-approved for this much. But then you get into it and it's like, yeah, that's not real true. Right.
All right. So, let's talk a little bit more about this other work, this video, this photography. You talked a little bit about the catalyst to switch. You just saw the need. You knew what you needed and wanted. So is this, I mean, are you doing this 2, 3, 4 days a week? Or are you doing it ad hoc? How's that?
Yeah, and I really have developed relationships with realtors again who like to use my services for what I do provide there, because I can provide a full site plan and floor plan. Some realtors decide that because it's such a seller's market, they may not want to go to the full extent there. But I think there's tremendous value in it, especially when I'm working with my buyers to be able to actually walk through. It also brings in people from other areas of the country. So
because they can look at it from a distance.
That's right. Or people who are
and they can see a video or pictures. Describe again, like what I might see if I saw some Susan Guda work.
Right. Well, what you would see, and I'm Atlanta Real Estate Video Services, ATL realestatevideoservices.com, so you can see some of the samples there.
Okay.
But the 3D video, it's like a walkthrough. You can look from any side. You can measure walls. You can measure.
Cool.
You can put your furniture in there, basically, and you can get up close and real personal to like the water heater. How old is that really? If you get the right angles, you can get all of that information as well. So that's really beneficial because it really truly is like you're walking through, not like it is, and so it's very detailed. It's a Matterport 3D tour, and then the photos. I actually have learned to take the photos with the Matterport so that in the angles that need to be done, so that it's not strange and.
So this is a professional tool
camera.
Or suite of tools that you use to capture photography and video in a way that's going to really lend itself to
right and adjust lighting and all of those things to make sure that it comes. That you can see everything in its clarity, and it shows the true size of a room as best as possible, trying to get the entire room, as and so I love it. It gives me a creative outlet.
Sure.
As far as how often I do it, I did it a lot when COVID first hit, and now I have kind of I'm very, very busy with my real estate business, and
but it's flexible like that, right?
Yeah,
you can kind of squeeze the balloon. If you really need business on that side, you just call up people and say, we were going to buy that house, but your photos suck. So
yeah.
I just happen to know a certain. Hey, I'm a marketing guy. I got all kind of ideas.
Well, you see a lot of houses out there that are underlisted just because they think, it's a seller's market, they'll buy whatever. They won't really still buy whatever. They still are going to be picky about what they buy, and you're not going to get the top dollar that you could get.
So early in the conversation, we touched on it a little bit, but I could sense in you a genuine affinity for community.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for bringing that into the conversation because that's my heart. I mentioned that I had been in education. I owned a Montessori preschool for 21 years, and I home educated my children for a lot of their schooling as well. Community, where we thrive. And there's been so many changes in the way that we do things and way we choose homes based on the community. It's because people are not tied into their office so much anymore. So they are able to choose their homes based on what they love to do. And if they can create a community that's live, work, play, something that's very healthy and health-minded, I love this area and where I am in Woodstock in that I can walk from my home to Woodstock, down the Woodstock Pass and by the Noonday Creek, and
nice.
And have a
so we're neighbors. Yeah. Holly and I bought a little patio home right here on the edge of town. Ips is my first lily pad.
Oh, okay.
When I'm walking to town,
I love it. I love the fact that we can. I mean, it really is kind of like, I'm going to really age myself, but it's like Cheers. Everybody knows your name.
Yeah.
But and that's so important to walk down the street. And I have lived in another community for 30 years, and I never felt that sense of closeness. I mean, there's so many in the community. Well, if you can create that sense of live, work, play in a community and have enough events and have enough feeling that
I used to run a magazine, and I'd like to really get that started again, honestly.
You can't hold down a job here.
Yeah. So
the magazine, what would be the concept for that?
The concept is and was fully embraced is really highlighting the stories of people.
Oh, fun.
And so there was a lot of diversity enabled there because people that you wouldn't normally necessarily have a conversation with were telling their stories. And I think that some of that also allowed for differences of views that were able to be embraced because you understand the backstory behind it. And if we're so polarized, it would be really nice to live in a world where we could really not necessarily agree with everybody. That's not the key, but listen. Let's listen to the stories. And how about these people who are making that pebble drop difference? They're just living their lives. They live their lives giving. That's who they are. Right. Let's highlight those people, and let's change the way we think about our world. So if we highlight these people, and one of the questions I really love, my favorite one was, who's the most interesting person you have met here, and who would you nominate for this magazine? And because immediately they would look up and they would think, oh, I know this person who lives that way, and that person, and they'd give me a whole long list of people that live that way, and then we all leave just feeling like, the angels are singing in the background, the world is lovely, and skies are blue, and and really, I think we are more good than we are not, and I think that we need to remember that we really do thrive by understanding the stories of others.
Amen. Yeah. What a delight to have you come and join us this morning. This is marvelous. Thank you so much. Let's make sure our listeners know how to get in touch with you on all those fronts with respect to the real estate and the video and the photography. Okay. And maybe if they want to have a conversation with you, help you get this magazine rekindled. So let's leave them with some points of contact.
All right. Fantastic. Well, my email, if I ever forget that, then I'm in big trouble. It's Susan at Susan Guda. It's SusanGuda.com. It's Susan at SusanGuda.com. And then my website is SusanGuda.com. So that's pretty easy for me to remember. And my phone number is 678-754-7977. And call me anytime. I answer my phone. I answer my phone.
Well, keep up the good work. We're going to continue to follow your story, and don't be a stranger. And I'll have my eyes up and my ears open when I'm walking around town. I'll probably notice you more often now. All right, this is Stone Payton for our guest today, and everyone here at the Business Radio X family saying we'll see you next time on Cherokee Business Radio.